What's your name?
So what's going to happen if I don't give you my name?
Then you can be under arrest.
If you are going to threaten us with physical violence, you better make sure you're willing to go all the way, because I am.
The way the law works is if the law doesn't say you can't do it, then you can do it.
If you want to lock people up for not breaking laws,
all men are created equal is the idea that if it is wrong for one man to commit an act, it is wrong for all men to commit that act. Too often, members of our government exclude themselves from the ranks of equal men referenced by Thomas Jefferson when he said.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream on the Henry channel. Today's live stream is especially special. Today, I have court at 10 a.m., so an hour and 15 minutes away. We have a court date that is to be held via Zoom. Now, this court date is for a Vermillion County case. The charge in the case is stalking. The alleged victim of this charge is a public official that works in the mayor's office. I have never been alleged to have had contact with her outside of the mayor's office. I never have. Outside of City Hall. And so, anyways, that's what the live stream is about today. But, of course, I don't want anybody to forget about it. And this live stream is going to be quite long because we are waiting until 10 a.m. But the plan is to get everybody here the Zoom link so that everybody that is here in this live stream can leave the live stream come 10 o'clock and join into the Zoom meeting. And we can let these people know that we got some eyes on this case. So, to start out with, what I want to do is I want to bring up the video that this is all about, like I usually do with these live streams, just so that everybody can tell what we actually are talking about in this video, because I do have 4 open cases. The government no government likes anybody watching them, and that is exactly what I do. So we will watch this. I'm going to present it to you right now. Now, again, this is the video here. I posted this to Facebook initially. I posted this to Facebook before the charges were ever filed, right? And it was in a community group in Vermillion County. It was called Life in Clinton. That got 5,000 views, I believe, in that group. And shortly after it was published, the Vermillion County prosecutors filed stalking charges. Let's watch.
Today I am bringing you proof of a corrupt mayor and employees of a small city in Indiana. Let's get into the video.
If you sell this property to some developer or something, do you automatically record that to all of a sudden that developer is responsible from then on?
Yes. We give them a deed. They get a deed and it's recorded here.
So there's no building not going on the city property before it's turned over to the developer?
No.
That is the attorney for the city of Clinton in Indiana. And everything you just heard him say was an absolute lie. He is currently being questioned by Vermillion County Commissioner Tim Yoakum.
My question is, has the city had anyone build units on their property before the...
Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
The commissioner is asking about these properties. The houses on them were built by contractor Timothy Cottrell, while the city still owned the properties. This allowed the contractor to avoid the cost of such inconveniences as buying the land and paying property taxes, which is probably why Scott Craig is feigning ignorance about them. But he then claims to be knowledgeable about the very area that all this happened on.
That area down around Feather Creek in Clinton, there's a lot of parcels down there. And most people weren't paying their taxes on them because they were worthless parcels of land. So we had a lot concentrated there in that North 6th Street, North 7th Street, North Street area. Most of those now have either been gone through the tax sale. There's a couple of people who still live down there and they do pay their taxes.
So he is aware of the properties, but at the same time, unaware of them. Now, I'm sure you all are thinking, why does this matter? If government officials are speaking, most often they are lying. As true as this lie affects real people and also shows to an extent the lack of accountability for government officials and their close friends. Let me give you some background. In the early 2000s, a man named Kevin Kiger bought almost a whole 2 blocks of properties with the hope of building a home for himself and his offspring. When Kevin went to the city to get a building permit, he was told by Mayor Jack Guilfoyle and two of the mayor's predecessors that he would not be able to get a permit for that land because it is in a flood zone. After Kevin realized that he would not be legally allowed to erect a building on his own property, he judged that the property was worthless to him. As a result, Kevin stopped paying property taxes on the now worthless land. The city then took the property from Kevin for delinquent taxes and allowed Timothy Cottrell, a local contractor and friend of the mayor's, to start construction on the same property they just told Kevin he couldn't construct on. On top of that, they let the mayor's friend build while the city still owned the property, which allowed the mayor's friend to avoid property taxes and possibly liability, contrary to the lies attorney Scott Craig told at the county commissioners meeting.
If you sell this property to some developer or something, do you automatically record that to also that developer is responsible from then on?
Yes. We give them a deed. They get a deed and it's recorded here.
So there's no building not going on the city property before it's turned over to the developer?
No.
Let's get into the evidence. We know the city attorney is lying about there being no building on city property because the property was transferred to Tim Cottrell in 2023, according to the county website. But Google satellite images from mid-2022 show that 12 properties were already constructed there. In addition to this evidence, the local news also ran a story about these very properties, in which Timothy Cottrell makes some pretty revealing statements about these properties. Let's watch.
New housing is coming to a spot in Clinton that sat empty for nearly a decade. The floodplain by North 6th Street now has 12 homes with many young families living in them.
Houston's Blake Dollier tells us how this project came together and how it'll help the small town.
Patrice Rondrell, a local business owner, and Mayor Jack Guilfoyle have one thing in common. They both say they want to see more young people live and work in Clinton. Now that business owner has laid the groundwork to help make that dream a reality. If you know Tim Cottrell, you know he's either working on roofs or building homes. He says he loves the city of Clinton, but a conversation with his daughter about the city had him concerned.
Well, it started with a comment from my daughter, kind of a negative comment about the city, and that struck me because that's our hometown, and I didn't want her to feel like it's a bad area.
Mayor Jack Guilfoyle says a lot of younger people are leaving the city, but says Cottrell is helping bring some back. He's invested in building 12 houses on a floodplain near North 6th Street. He's building them to be flood-proof.
I've been on a mission for several years to improve Clinton as much as I can. I try to take the worst houses in town and then either tear.
I just want to take a moment to point out, since this is a live leading up to court, just how simple the local press thinks everybody is, right? Like, and just apparently how simple this guy thinks everybody is. The idea that building new houses, that just simply the act of building new houses would bring new people, would stop the outflow of young people from this town, right? I am here to tell you that that is definitely not the case, right? Young people leave places because they don't see a future there, right? They don't see career development, or they don't see maybe political stability, right? Because in an unstable political environment, who even knows what you're going to be able to do? Right, laws can change, political preferences can change, so a whole bunch of stuff can change. So that's why people leave places, and especially young people, right? It's not for a lack of houses, right? There are certainly plenty of vacant houses in Clinton, but it's not about that. It's about the people not wanting to live there because there's no actual future in the town, right? There's no jobs. They don't pay well if there are jobs. And then, there's no career development, right? The only career development you're going to get in Clinton is if you leave and you go to college, right? So we are going to continue on with this, but I just wanted to point that out to you.
Tear them down and build something new, or rehab them if I can.
That dream of making his city better came with a pretty hefty price tag.
Yeah, I don't know who else would want to sink $1 million into flood zone in Clinton, and that's about what it ended up costing. And I don't have $1 million, but I found a way. I found a way to make it happen.
He did not have $1 million, but he found a way. Perhaps some of the money he used came from the city of Clinton,
as the city did admit to reallocating almost $250,000 from a project in the town to the same area that Cottrell built his housing on. Also, when the properties were belatedly transferred over to Cottrell, the clerk treasurer of the city, Lori Kersey, appears to have never signed her name on the quitclaim deed that I have been shown, supposedly showing that she did not support these questionable acts within her own city government.
I don't know who else would want to sink $1 million into flood zone in Clinton, and that's about what it ended up costing. And I don't have $1 million, but you know, I found a way. I found a way to make it happen.
One thing is certain. Tim Cottrell has never met Kevin Kiger, the man who originally owned and wanted to build on this property.
Initially, I wasn't sure what kind of demand we would have for them. And as I built, you know, I had to take my time building them. I didn't have the funding to do it all at once, but as I built each one of them, they were rented out before we even finished them. So it really worked out well.
So now, thanks to Cottrell's statement, we know that he was renting out city property and presumably keeping the money for himself, which explains why the county government was asking questions in the first place. What we are asking is how they are allowed to do this to people like Kevin Kiger and get away with it. According to Mayor Jack Guilfoyle, the state has already looked into this issue and found no wrongdoing.
Mayor, why have you sold properties to a private contractor for an average of $1 per property?
Ask him, he's asked me that question before, and so see, you both got the answer.
So did the state of Indiana.
Yeah, and they said there was nothing wrong.
No, they didn't.
Yes, we did.
No, it's on tape.
The city attorney met with Will.
The city attorney said he swept it under the rug.
The city has never provided any proof that any building permits were ever granted to Tim Cottrell to build in that flood zone. And the person in charge of the permits for the city, Kenneth Weininger, told me that Tim never got permits. What he got was permission. Sure would have been nice for Kevin Kiger, but the reality is that we shouldn't need permission to build on our own property. We definitely shouldn't be paying thugs like these for the right to own property. However, the moral of this story is, rules don't apply to the rulers, only the rules.
Some may be asking, who exactly is to blame for this double standard in the city of Clinton? And in my opinion, the answer to that is the mayor, Jack Guilfoyle Jr., and the other local officials that have imposed the rules when it benefits them and overlooked the same rules when their friend is the party in question. As a result of my investigation into this city and asking questions to local officials, I have been charged with felony stalking. The alleged victim, a woman that works in the mayor's office in real life, but on paper is a utility clerk. Me exposing corruption, asking questions of local officials, and exercising my right to record in public while doing so is not a criminal offense. However, they are attempting to persecute me with felony charges that carry up to 2.5 years in prison. To help me fight back against this tyranny, please donate to either my Cash App or PayPal, and share this video to help expose this corruption to as many people as possible. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. It helps it get to more people. And leave me a comment and tell me what you think down below. All right, everybody. So that is the video that I am being prosecuted / persecuted for. These people are absolute scumbags. I'm going to fix my suit there. There we go. All right, now we're all ready for court. Okay, so now I am going to show you all a speech that I delivered to the people that Scott Craig lied to in that video. And this is previously unseen footage. This is the county commissioners meeting. Sorry, it's previously unseen on this channel. This is the county commissioners meeting in which I went to the commissioners that the city lied to. And I said, hey, look, you know, they lied to you. What are you going to do about it? Of course, nothing was done about it. But nonetheless, we got time. So let me show you this cool piece of footage. And you can enjoy.
It just came up this afternoon at our previous meeting. So.
I do want to say I appreciate around $15,000 each time. And this Wabash River is something I think that investment.
Now he goes on for just a little bit about something before I get to talking, but yeah, I see somebody in the comments saying he will provide a link as soon as he gets it. That's the truth.
manufacturer ever of any county in the state. So we should highlight that a little bit more than we do.
I'm Craig Hendry. I'm here I unfortunately have to inform you that in the August 1st Commissioners meeting, I believe, Attorney Scott Craig for the city of Clinton came in here and lied to you all, specifically you, Mr. Yoakum, when he said to you in response to your question, is there any building going on city property before the property has been transferred over? He answered that in the negative. The truth is that was going on. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know exactly why he was not telling the entire truth, but I assume that's something that you all would want to look into. I'd also like to say, just, since this is public comment for just county matters in general, my response, or the response given to me by some political allies here in the county building, has been absolutely disgusting. As I'm a well-known political activist, I just go around and exercise my rights. That's pretty much all that I do. And it seems that, like the city attorney for Clinton, some of the attorneys here in the county seem to follow the same kind of trend. They lie and they I guess cook up false criminal charges, and that's just a complaint of mine. I feel like your prosecutors here are doing a way less than par job, so to speak. But if you guys have any questions about the properties, we provided you with pictures of them. The proof is in the pictures. These are Google satellite images. They're dated 2017 to 2023. These are the most recent ones. The title for these properties in the pictures, they're on North 6th Street. The title wasn't transferred over to the person who built on those properties until 2023. So, and the 2017 picture has proof there's, I think, at least 4 houses built on those properties at that point in time, according to these Google satellite images. So it's not really me saying it, it's Google. That guy came in and lied to you guys. So you guys have a right to subpoena him if you want to ask him any more questions. And if you guys have any good questions for me, that's fine. But like I said, I think the proof is in the pudding here. So that being said, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
And I will say that really, I think that it's great that these people here, these politicians, have the gall to sit. And of course, if a citizen lied to them, could you imagine the offense they would take at that? But seeing as it's another public official, they just kind of take it as, oh, well, that's interesting. And they ponder on it. And nothing gets done. Nothing gets done at all. So, guys, the link for the Zoom is going to be posted. We got some new people in here. The link for the Zoom for the court is going to be posted as soon as I get it so that we can all get in there and get ready to attend. We want to stay quiet in court. I am going to unmute my mic, of course, but I'd ask for all of you to be respectful. And I would remind you that recording in a courtroom in the state of Indiana, recording in the courtroom, or even recording a Zoom conference is not allowed. So I want to break this down to you guys, right? Government does a lot of things that if the people saw, the people wouldn't be very happy about, right? A lot of those things occur in the courthouses, the courtrooms that they employ, that they basically inhabit, right? They inhabit these places. And so what the deal is that since I'm a public figure of some kind, I have some sort of a following or some sort of an attendance when the state does something to me, they are going to hold it on Zoom and then hold anybody who records the event, they're going to hold them in contempt and try to throw them in a cage, right? Because we're not allowed to show the people, even if they're interested in it, we are not allowed to show the people what they do in those courtrooms, right? They in my opinion, it's mafia style, cartel style mock trials, and they don't even have mock trials, but at least the U.S. government goes through the mock trial process, right? And the state government. And so that's what we're going to do. But unlike the cartels, these people don't record it, right? The cartels will always record when they do stuff to people. This particular cartel, the U.S. government, does not like things recorded when they're doing it to them because their whole mafia is based off of voluntary compliance. So, yeah. So just so everybody knows, if you do decide to attend the Zoom meeting, which the link will be in the comments in the description on my channel community page at a, in the near future, it'll be in the near future. I'm talking about in the next 45 minutes. So don't record, though. Do not record the government. They will kidnap you. Do not record the government. All right. So I'm just going to put that out there. But guys, yeah, I want to probably keep going with some more stuff. We have got 55 minutes until the court date. So, and I'll be honest with you, I actually, to kill time, I don't really like to do this, but I'm going to play some reports ran by some other channels on this story because I am unable to. So starting out, I'm going to start out with one of my favorite channels on the internet, James Freeman. James Freeman is a man who sees things in the correct light, as far as I'm concerned. Quite funny as far as I am concerned. But this guy really, really goes crazy on his channel. He's a very, very good journalist. So I'm going to play his stuff. I'm sorry, James, for stealing your video here, but it's done gotten its views already. And I am going to sit right down here in the corner. Hello, everybody. Let's see what Mr. James Freeman has to say about this case.
My friend Craig Hendry has spent a ton of time and effort exposing what appears to be one heck of a scandal in a small town in Indiana, and now he needs our help. He's facing felony stalking charges for continuing to go to the government buildings and public meetings to gather information he used to break this story exposing government officials. First, we'll check out his story, and then we'll talk about the public officials that are using the threat of government against him to try to shut him up, including this super honorable judge that has now placed a gag order on him.
Today I am bringing you proof of a corrupt mayor and employees of a small city in Indiana. Let's get into the video.
If you sell this property to some developer or something, do you automatically record that to also that developer is responsible from then on?
Yes. We give them a deed. They get a deed and it's recorded here.
So there's no building not going on the city property before it's turned over to the developer?
No.
That is the attorney for the city of Clinton in Indiana. And everything you just heard him say was an absolute lie. He is currently being questioned by Vermillion County Commissioner Tim Yoakum.
My question is, has the city had anyone build units on their property before the...
Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
The commissioner is asking about these properties. The houses on them were built by contractor Timothy Cottrell, while the city still owned the properties. This allowed the contractor to avoid the cost of such inconveniences as buying the land and paying property taxes, which is probably why Scott Craig is feigning ignorance about them. But he then claims to be knowledgeable about the very area that all this happened on.
That area down around Feather Creek in Clinton, there's a lot of parcels down there, and most people weren't paying their taxes on them because they were worthless parcels of land. So we had a lot concentrated there in that North 6th Street, North 7th Street, North Street area. Most of those now have either been gone through the tax sale. There's a couple of people who still live down there and they do pay their taxes.
So he is aware of the properties, but at the same time, unaware of them. Now, I'm sure you all are thinking, why does this matter? If government officials are speaking, most often they are lying. As true as this lie affects real people and also shows to an extent the lack of accountability for government officials and their close friends. Let me give you some background. In the early 2000s, a man named Kevin Kiger bought almost a whole 2 blocks of properties with the hope of building a home for himself and his offspring. When Kevin went to the city to get a building permit, he was told by Mayor Jack Guilfoyle and 2 of the mayor's predecessors that he would not be able to get a permit for that land because it is in a flood zone. After Kevin realized that he would not be legally allowed to erect a building on his own property, he judged that the property was worthless to him. As a result, Kevin stopped paying property taxes on the now worthless land. The city then took the property from Kevin for delinquent taxes and allowed Timothy Cottrell, a local contractor and friend of the mayor's, to start construction on the same property they just told Kevin he couldn't construct on. On top of that, they let the mayor's friend build while the city still owned the property, which allowed the mayor's friend to avoid property taxes and possibly liability, contrary to the lies attorney Scott Craig told at the county commissioners meeting.
If you sell this property to some developer or something, do you automatically record that to all of a sudden that developer is responsible from then on?
Yes. We give them a deed. They get a deed and it's recorded here.
So there's no building not going on the city property before it's turned over to the developer?
No.
Let's get into the evidence. We know the city attorney is lying about there being no building on city property because the property was transferred to Tim Cottrell in 2023, according to the county website. But Google satellite images from mid-2022 show that 12 properties were already constructed there. In addition to this evidence, the local news also ran a story about these very properties, in which Timothy Cottrell makes some pretty revealing statements about these properties. Let's watch.
New housing is coming to a spot in Clinton that sat empty for nearly a decade. The floodplain by North 6th Street now has 12 homes with many young families living in them.
Houston's Blake Dahlia tells us how this project came together and how it'll help the small town.
Patrice Rondrell, a local business owner, and Mayor Jack Guilfoyle have one thing in common. They both say they want to see more young people live and work in Clinton. Now that business owner has laid the groundwork to help make that dream a reality. If you know Tim Cottrell, you know he's either working on roofs or building homes. He says he loves the city of Clinton, but a conversation with his daughter about the city had him concerned.
Well, it started with a comment from my daughter, kind of a negative comment about the city, and that struck me because that's our hometown, and I didn't want her to feel like it's a bad area.
Mayor Jack Guilfoyle says a lot of younger people are leaving the city, but says Cottrell is helping bring some back. He's invested in building 12 houses on a floodplain near North 6th Street. He's building them to be flood proof.
I've been on a mission for several years to improve Clinton as much as I can. I try to take the worst houses in town and then either tear them down and build something new or rehab them if I can.
That dream of making his city better came with a pretty hefty price tag.
I don't know who else would want to sink $1 million into flood zone in Clinton, and that's about what it ended up costing. And I don't have $1 million, but you know, I found a way. I found a way to make it happen.
He did not have $1 million, but he found a way. Perhaps some of the money he used came from the city of Clinton, as the city did admit to reallocating almost $250,000 from a project in the town to the same area that Cottrell built his housing on. Also, when the properties were belatedly transferred over to Cottrell, the clerk treasurer of the city, Lori Kersey, appears to have never signed her name on the quitclaim deed that I have been shown, supposedly showing that she did not support these questionable acts within her own city government.
I don't know who else would want to sink $1 million into flood zone in Clinton, and that's about what it ended up costing. And I don't have $1 million, but you know, I found a way. I found a way to make it happen.
One thing is certain. Tim Cottrell has never met Kevin Kiger, the man who originally owned and wanted to build on this property.
Initially, I wasn't sure what kind of demand we would have for them, and as I built, you know, I had to take my time building them. I didn't have the funding to do it all at once, but as I built each one of them, they were rented out before we even finished them. So it really worked out well.
So now, thanks to Cottrell's statement, we know that he was renting out city property and presumably keeping the money for himself, which explains why the county government was asking questions in the first place. What we are asking is how they are allowed to do this to people like Kevin Kiger and get away with it. According to Mayor Jack Guilfoyle, the state has already looked into this issue and found no wrongdoing.
Mayor, why have you sold properties to a private contractor for an average of $1 per property?
Ask him, he's asked me that question before, and so you both got the answer.
So did the state of Indiana.
Yeah, and they said there was nothing wrong.
No, they did.
Yes, we did.
No, it's on tape.
The city attorney met with Will.
The city attorney said he swept it under the rug.
The city has never provided any proof that any building permits were ever granted to Tim Cottrell to build in that flood zone. And the person in charge of the permits for the city, Kenneth Weininger, told me that Tim never got permits. What he got was permission. Sure would have been nice for Kevin Kiger, but the reality is that we shouldn't need permission to build on our own property. We definitely shouldn't be paying thugs like these for the right to own property. However, the moral of this story is rules don't apply to the rulers, only the rules.
Some may be asking, who exactly is to blame for this double standard in the city of Clinton? And in my opinion, the answer to that is the mayor, Jack Guilfoyle Jr., and the other local officials that have imposed the rules when it benefits them and overlooked the same rules when their friend is the party in question. As a result of my investigation into this city and asking questions to local officials, I have been charged with felony stalking the alleged victim, a woman that works in the mayor's office in real life, but on paper is a utility clerk. Me exposing corruption, asking questions of local officials, and exercising my right to record in public while doing so is not a criminal offense. However, they are attempting to persecute me with felony charges that carry up to 2.5 years in prison. To help me fight back against this tyranny, please donate to either my Cash App or PayPal, and share this video to help expose this corruption to as many people as possible.
After Patricia Karanovich, a government employee working at your expense, put these bogus charges on Craig, the Super Honorable Judge Hunter Reese ordered Craig to pretrial services and demanded that he take a regular drug test at his own expense, gave him a curfew, and then granted the state a gag order for all discovery in the case. In other words, a lot more corruption is likely to be exposed when Craig receives discovery for these charges, and the judge has ordered that he is not to release that information to the public. A link to Craig's channel is in the pinned comment and the description. Make sure to head over there, subscribe, and ring the bell so you get notified when he gives updates on this case.
All right, and that's James Freeman's thing. So we sent the link out to For Public Safety. If there's any other channels that want to come on and comment on this right before court, you're welcome to. We have about 40 minutes before court, everybody. And I don't know if I've got the Zoom link yet. Let me update my email, make sure. So if I don't have it, yep, we do not have the Zoom link. So, but yeah, absolutely, guys. I mean, this is going to be, we're leading up to court. We got less than 50 minutes at least. And ultimately, I hear that some things are going to be talked about in this court date. I hear that the judge, or not the judge, I hear that the prosecution is going to make allegations of somebody recording in the courtroom. Now, something that I need to say in relation to that comment is that somebody that went to my court date was actually arrested right after the court date, right? We went into court. I was taken into jail for contempt of court, and somebody that I know that came to attend the court hearing in my support left and got arrested right after. Now, there's been some stories that go on. I'm going to keep kind of those to myself because I haven't seen the videos. I haven't seen exactly what's going on. There's been some allegations that this arrest was retaliatory, and who would put it past them? You know, who would put it past them? So what I'm trying to say is that when they arrested this guy, my buddy, or, he's somebody that came to the court date. He's my buddy now. He was arrested and he was accused of recording in the courtroom. They said, we are pulling you over because you recorded in the courtroom. And then they dragged him out of his car and they took him to jail on charges of a Class C misdemeanor, driving while suspended, something of this case, something of this sort. So, and I believe that the judge might allude to that in this hearing, or the prosecution may allude to that in this hearing. And that's okay, I guess. I certainly didn't do any of that stuff. So, and then another thing, I had another guy come. This is my friend Tyson. He came to my court hearing. And right after he came to the court hearing, the next county over started stepping up his probation terms. So you might be careful, right? Everybody might be careful showing up on Zoom. And if you do, maybe we'll want to be careful giving your real name. Chris, I sent that StreamYard link over to you on your phone. So, and guys, really, I wouldn't mind. Like Tyson is in the chat. Tyson, I wouldn't mind if you wanted to come up and tell everybody what you saw at the last court date, because what happened was, and I'll tell you, but somebody else could tell you maybe, and it gives it a little more credibility. Tyson, let me know in the chat if you are wanting to come up. If you don't want to come up, that's fine. I'll explain it, but let me know. The court started, right? We went through the motion to dismiss. Then we came to the states talking about what do we do about my bond situation, right? Because the judge was talking about, oh, well, Mr. Hendry doesn't, he doesn't comply with pretrial sentencing. So we got to put him back in jail. So they put me back in jail, right? Because I didn't comply with pretrial sentencing. But the reason they did that is because the prosecutor brought it up. The prosecutor comes into the courtroom and she just starts saying, like, she screams at me. She gets real belligerent. Her face is all red. And she starts talking about, hold on, we got for public safety. I'm going to add him to the thing. Hey, for public safety, how's it going, brother? You doing all right?
Good morning, Craig. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm hanging in there. I'm ready. I'm ready to face these people head on. I'm ready to really look at them right in the eyes and see what they're trying to do to us.
Isn't it sad that these criminal proceedings can't also handle the criminal activity on the other party's part? I wish that you going into this court might interest the judge in pressing criminal charges on the other parties who actually deserve them. But that's just unfortunately not how our legal system operates.
Yeah, it is sad, man. And I think that's a story that me and Ty are actually working on right now. Is we went to this town hall meeting where this local cop is accused of being a criminal, and the town's council goes, well, maybe the prosecutor will charge him and we'll see what happens after that. And if that doesn't speak to the accountability for any public official, police, prosecutors, mayors, all these people.
Well, I think the general public would believe, you would think that going to a courtroom in front of a judge and even juries and audiences that would absolutely see what's going on, you would think that they would be calling out their own criminal activity and that it would be handled. But, if the prosecutor doesn't take that position and run with it on their own as a witness, nothing gets done in that courtroom. You literally have to work the legal system from a whole nother aspect to get charges filed against them. And, the sad thing is like I said, you're not the one that committed any crime here. You called out crime that was being committed. And what's going to be done about it? Well, nothing in this courtroom. You're just going to prove your innocence. And that's all there is to it today.
Yeah, and really, I think that they know that the process is the punishment. It would appear to me that if we went to a jury trial setting, there would be many more factors that could lead to a dismissal out with the prosecution or out with me that might give the prosecution an excuse of sorts. Like, for example, if their star witness didn't show up,
Yeah.
And this kind of stuff gives these people excuses to say, all right, well, we would probably definitely won't win in trial because, the main witness won't show up, but we'll put him through the process. We'll make sure that he has to show up to these court dates. And of course, this is actually something that I think is funny, Chris, and maybe you'll comment on this because you know what it's like to be dragged through the legal system for doing absolutely nothing but calling these people out.
Boy, do I ever.
Yeah, exactly. And so basically, man, I mean, this is the punishment for calling it out. I mean, I think I forgot what I was going to say, but ultimately, ultimately what's going on is the process is the punishment. They want to drag me in. What I was going to say is that we had so many people show up to court last time. It wasn't a million people. We had about 12 or 14 people show up, and they sat in the courtroom, and you could see the uncomfortability of some of these public officials. I mean, the prosecutor was getting a red face. The male prosecutor was stuttering over his words, And his only defense other than process was that the First Amendment isn't a blanket protection that protects all actions. Well, nobody in this case is claiming that it does. So it was irrelevant for him to say that. But then the judge, he wouldn't even look at me. He wouldn't look at anybody in the crowd. And now we see what's about to happen. We've got 35 minutes until the court is set to start. They did it for a Zoom meeting 2 days ago. I mean, what's your take on that? Why do you think they did that? Do you think it was process? Do you think it was just coincidence? Or do you think that maybe they don't want people to show up in person and view what's going on in that courtroom? What do you think, Chris? What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, it seems obvious that they're just trying to avoid the First Amendment. You know, they don't want people coming in and witnessing because, of course, free speech is going to follow. So that would be the most obvious answer. However, you know, there's always excuses on their part. You know, I mean, I was granted a Zoom trial at the last hearing I was at where they racked up 11 new charges for the same exact thing that wasn't even illegal in the first place. And 2 of those were felonies. They granted me a Zoom meeting at the very last minute, but it was because I believe it was because so many eyes were on it. Even the, you know, Kentucky State's Attorney General had been proactive in making an agreement to say that Meade County was a conflict of interest for me. So, yeah, I mean, of course, not everyone is particularly involved in what's happening to you in that judicial system, but the smaller the town, the more likely it is that every government employee, including the elected officials, at very least are very aware of the support system that you have, the amount of First Amendment that's going to come out of it, and the exposure that they're going to receive. And I think in your case, a lot like mine, the exposure was what they were trying to avoid in the first place by giving you these charges. You know, you were there, you were exposing an illegal activity, and they freaked out and started retaliating. You know, it's really obvious. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question. I don't know if they're allowing you to do Zoom just to keep people from being in the courtroom, or if they're doing it for other reasons, you know. And in my experience, I always find it to be a surprise in the end. You know, they work really hard to do things under the cover of darkness and behind closed doors so that we don't know what their next move is or why they're doing things. And these guys are very much experienced in the legal process. So yeah. I hope that made sense.
It does. It absolutely does. And it is really hard to tell with these kind of people. You know, it could be anything from they are just too lazy to hop in their car in the morning to what you said, that they don't want exposure. So you're absolutely right for saying we don't know the exact reason that they're doing this, but it does seem obvious. And of course, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. But we don't know, you know, we can't be sure until we test that DNA, and we ain't never going to test this DNA because that's how secretive these government people are. Now, I see some questions in the chat about whether we have the Zoom link yet. I just updated my YouTube, and we don't have the Zoom link, and we have about 300 or 429 people in here. I want to remind everybody that recording your government officials has been criminalized. It's criminalized in Indiana courtrooms. Don't do it. Even if you're not in Indiana, even if you're nowhere near Indiana, I don't care if you're in Hawaii or Alaska, do not record these public officials. The state of Indiana does have the resources, and they will use them to quash freedom of speech or freedom of the press. They will kidnap you if you record this court hearing. They might even have something in Zoom that tells them if somebody's recording. So beware, right? Don't do it. Just play it safe. That's my advice to everybody if they'd like to attend the Zoom meeting. Chris, what's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, don't, like I always say, pick your battles, pick your priorities. And I believe that this being a public hearing, there are plenty of eyes on it. We don't need a recording of it, so it's not worth the chance. Now, I don't disagree in that in many courtrooms, I think we should be able to record, you know, personally, but that's my opinion. When it comes to the law, though, they will use it against you, and this is just not worth you know, this is just isn't worth taking that opportunity or that chance for.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think that just simply by virtue of having other courts that are they don't even allow recording, they are forced to record themselves.
Yeah.
And
that's what I was getting ready to ask. Craig, is this one being recorded by the courts?
We don't know. We actually don't know. They say that they're on record, but they could record it in any way they want, transcripts or
Right. That's what I was
anyway.
going to say. There will be transcript if nothing else.
Yes. And I always wonder how accurate transcripts are. I really don't know. But I know that, yeah, like you said, I mean, we'll have enough eyes on it. And this is just a pre-trial. So, and it's over Zoom, right? So ultimately, I mean, they could do anything they want, you know, but I'm not in the vicinity. I'm not in the same vicinity as them. So nothing is going to happen to me in the immediate, in the immediate future. But it's still going to be interesting to see what these people do to me. And there's actually, I want to preface the Zoom hearing. We've got 442 people. We got a bit of information that I believe stemmed from the prosecuting attorney that said that they intend to file some sort of harassment charges or something like this. And I don't know exactly what to think about that. I don't even really want to comment on it too much. I do know that I am confused. I have always been confused in this case by the motion to seal records that was filed with the probable cause affidavits. And then the fact that I still don't know who the other alleged victim was in this case, because there was initially 2 stalking charges filed. There was 2 felony stalking charges. The state rescinded one of them and rescinded a harassment by means of telephone call charge, and they just left 1 felony stalking. I don't know who the other alleged victim was in that charge that wasn't pursued. So it would be interesting to see that. I would bet that they know that the law is so obvious that it's, you know what I mean, that that's not the case, that you can't stalk this person. And that's why they dropped it. That's just speculation. I have no idea.
Well, I don't know, because this one should have had the same outcome. I mean, in my opinion, I've watched what's happened to you. It's so much like my case in Meade County. So much. I mean, they're obviously doing these charges on you to shut you up because your YouTube channel scares the living crap out of them. In exposure that you flat out caught them committing crimes, so they're going to charge you with whatever they can abuse the system to make up. I would be interested in seeing that too. I'm not real sure if your constitutional rights to facing your accuser will apply in this, because it didn't make it past prosecution, so it might stay sealed.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that at some point it did make it past prosecution, but at some point someone along the lines, reeled it back in, because it came out and it's out, but we just don't know who it was. So it's funny, in my opinion. But really, I mean, I think that the if the rumor is true, if the claim made by the prosecutor through the grapevine is true, that will just be a bigger hole for them to dig themselves. I mean, that's my take on it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of these people. They just think that, and I am very resolved to do this. I am resolved to stand my ground, to make sure that nobody is going to be telling me what to do in this case, because I'm a free man. And that's the attitude that I've maintained the whole time. But they make me so angry, man, when they do this kind of stuff, when they're literally just using their positions. And you know better than me right now. You just served 14 days in jail, Chris. So I know you know. But when they use their position, they use their authority that we've given to them. Well, I never gave it, but as a collective, we supposedly gave it to them. And they use it to kidnap us and to literally just ruin our lives in the moment and in the future, possibly. And it just makes me so angry, man. I really don't even know how to describe the anger that I feel from it, but it's just, I don't know.
I don't find, I mean, I applaud you for being able to lighten your load and find some humor in it at all, because I don't. I get very angry and I'm upset, and the damages have been very real, to my home.
Yeah, literally.
And of course, the harassment is relentless too from the trolls. But sorry, my phone just rang. I get a troll that calls me from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. every single day of the week. But anyway,
and he continuously says how you don't have a life.
well, I don't answer. I don't answer the phone. I just
Right.
turn it over to my, in the case that's building against them. But anyway, sorry, I lost track.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I don't find humor in it. I think that what they're doing is we watch the videos in our community where people are bringing cameras to facilities and getting shut down, and we recognize that as obviously First Amendment violations. Here in your case right now, Craig, and I believe in mine as well, this is the heart of the First Amendment that we were practicing, in that we are literally catching government officials in violation of criminal activity, and we are utilizing our free speech, the way it was intended, to bring awareness to it at the very least. And what's happening is that these officials are literally abusing their positions. They're not using the law properly. It's like you said, the punishment is the process. So they are utilizing their positions to falsify the law, which to me doesn't get any more egregious. I mean, they are literally hurting us and damaging our lives and stealing our money and putting us through torture, just so that we will shut up. And that really is what it boils down to. Craig, you are now really experiencing a huge, real First Amendment violation.
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, I do agree the First Amendment violation is real. It's absolutely important. And I think, though, looking at it in the totally absent of the law is important in both of our cases. In essentially, when you take law out of it, you essentially have one person that's living his life and he's not hurting, stealing, or vandalizing anybody's property. And you have this other group of people who are being talked about. And that one group of people who's being talked about grabs up a whole bunch of guns, or they send a whole bunch of guys to grab a bunch of guns, and they go to your house, they kidnap you. This is exactly what the British soldiers would do. This is why I believe it's the Third Amendment to the Constitution exists, that you are not supposed to be compelled to house soldiers during peacetime. But of course, then the Constitution goes on further to say you're supposed to be secure in your houses, persons, properties, and effects. But what I'm saying is that basically, there's so many rules in the U.S. now that, it's ridiculous. The law is, in my estimation, absolutely terrible, and there's too much. It's too confusing. And I believe people break the law every time they wake up, and that probably before they go into work in the morning, they're breaking some code of law. That's
Sure.
my assumption. But you're right in the sense that they are using the law against us. They have taken the codes that benefit them and they're implementing them. They've taken the codes that they've broken and they're ignoring them. And the way that they've set it up is the only people that has any power to prosecute, the only people that has any power to do anything at all, if there's a law violation, is them. So if they ignore it, you go to jail, and they don't. So
Did you see my video that I published yesterday?
I don't think I did. No.
You were talking about, the Third and Fourth Amendment violations after, we're done this way. We're once we've experienced this tyranny. I posted the video where the police came to my house to get me on those 2 warrants from Kentucky. And of course, I live in Indiana. For those who don't know, who are watching, I live in Indiana, and the process for an Indiana officer to arrest a person in Indiana for a warrant out of another state is to file for what's called a fugitive warrant. And if they don't do that, then the only other way that they could make an arrest is if, you've broke some type of violation, you violated some type of law, and then they ran you, and then you would, be seen to have had a warrant, and then that way they could do it that way too. But in my case, Indiana State Police sent 4 troopers to my home 3 hours after the warrant was figured out in Kentucky, in another state. And those 4 officers posted up in positions to attack me at my door. Of course, we caught it all on security footage. And the officer that was banging on my door is also in the hate group that was formed against me by the troll channels and by the government official's sister, which I can't talk a whole lot about that until it's through court. But
Yeah.
the guy was out here banging on my door to the point where they broke my screen door. They yanked down one of my cameras and broke the soffit that it was hanging up on. You know, they tried to get in our cars. I mean, you want to talk about some violations of constitutional rights. You know, you need to see.
These people work directly for the governor's office. These Indiana State Police, the commissioner is appointed by the governor. So that's the governor's boys. And we already know in Indiana, and this is a little bit off topic, but we already know in Indiana, the AG, Todd Rokita, he drafts laws about me and you all the time. He drafts new laws for the House of Representatives in Indiana to pass. And they just passed one of them saying stuff like, if you violate policy 3 times in a public building, whoever's inside of that building that's employed there can basically just tell you to leave and you're going to be trespassed. You'll be arrested. And so they've made legislatures in this law out of every public official, not just the elected legislatures. Now they've made a legislator out of every public official. So, and this is in direct retaliation of me and you's behavior. Reporting on your behavior in Indiana has been stupid effective. Jamie Knoll was a massive story, and this was what for public safety broke almost a year and a half. What was it? 2 years?
2 years ago. Yeah.
2 years before this ever even came to light. I'm telling you, he was showing me videos. He was talking to me about it in private, and they can't allow guys like this guys like for public safety to be out here exposing them, because if it can happen to Jamie Noel, a famous county sheriff who had a TV show that was on nationally published, it can happen to any of them. It is dangerous. So
well hold on. I want to add this in there too. Don't forget what you're saying. They also passed a 25-foot rule for people who are filming officers pulling people over.
Absolutely. That is a rule that affects me on a day-to-day basis. Because nobody knows even what 25 feet look like, right? I mean, a lot of people really have an exaggerated view of 25 feet. I mean, if I watch soccer, and so every time they get a free kick, it's a 10-yard. Everybody has to be moved back 10 yards. 10 yards is quite a distance, but 25 feet is like, it's less than that. And 10 yards really isn't quite a distance when you're in the grand scheme of things. You can hear people from 10 yards. You can hear people just fine from 10 yards. You know, most of the time, right? But
I think when you're recording, you need to be a little closer than that. But I can spit 25 feet. You know,
yeah. If it's windy, you're going to need to be closer. But ultimately, they don't understand what 25 feet is the point. They're going to push you back 50 feet, 100 feet, wherever they're comfortable. And the reality is that you're going to be arrested if you disagree with whatever their 25-foot estimation is.
Right. And the police are already abusing it. One of my newest videos that's going to be coming out is actually, I'm going back to Bedford because a person sent me an email who was arrested on the 25-foot rule a couple weeks ago. And the way the cop enacted it was he said, "Get out of here." And then he ran over and arrested him. So like, you know, the statute, the new ridiculously constitutionally violating statute reads that they have to warn you, they have to explain it to you, and then if you violate it afterwards, that's when they're supposed to be able to enact the arrest. But they're not going to. We all knew this when the legislation was up for debate, and everyone said police are going to abuse this law, and certainly here we are, you know, right off the bat, within weeks of the new 25-foot rule being established in law, here they are, you know, screaming out, "You're going to get arrested," as they arrest the guy, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's what the intent was. It was really intended to make guys like, because my great, you know, thing that I love it. I go around and I said, I'm really proud of it, is I just say like, hey, the whole way the law works is if it doesn't say that you can't do it, then you can do it.
Right.
And they hate that. They absolutely hate that because they could never think of everything that we could do that would bother them. So there's always going to be things that's not provided in the law that we could do to make them angry. Right. And so eventually they're just going to have to start providing for stuff like shall not upload to YouTube with any, likeness of a public official portrayed in the video. And they're going to have to go to the extremes of this because ultimately we're going to be able to do our job no matter what. And the ACLU is actually suing them in Indiana on behalf of a First Amendment journalist. I believe it's Freedom to Film, and that's spelled with a 2. And that's Freedom to Film, and he's up there in northern Indiana, and they're suing on his behalf. So we are actually slowly, very slowly making some sort of progress on getting that law corrected because you're right, it's unconstitutional, but it's ridiculous anyways. No cop has ever been assaulted by a cameraman standing within 25 feet.
Exactly. There's no officer safety, to it at all. I mean, it's ridiculous.
No history of an officer danger. So yeah, the changing something won't make anybody safer.
Well, the problem is that they being the government employees, they are being allowed to create these statutes in the first place. And that's where I see the problem. I think these obviously constitutional violations, the process is too slow and kind of backwards because for some reason we're not putting our foot down before this stuff gets brought to legislation. Like there's just no way that they ever believed, that anyone ever believed, including, our state's attorney. There's no way that they ever believed that this law needed to be put into place and that it was not unconstitutional. They've known the whole time. What they're doing is they're testing the American public to see if we're going to do anything about it or not. It's kind of like, you remember back when we were kids in school, you had a guy that would flog somebody in the arm and say, "What are you going to do about it?" Well, that's what they're doing, and then they'll hit you again, and they'll hit you again, and they'll hit you again, and at some point you have to fight back. But why not just stop the bully from punching people in the first place?
Yeah, well, that's seriously something that's been used, and everybody will tell you that when a bully is hitting you, you're letting him do that. You're not, he's not doing it to you. You're letting them do that. And that's exactly what we're doing with these bullies. We are more than equipped to deal with them. We are more than capable of it. Now, when I say we, I just mean people that don't fit into the category of government employees, people that work in the private sector or people who have worked in the private sector, people that don't get a government check in any capacity. Stand up against these people. Because if not, they're just going to keep taking your money and handing it out to people. And the money is the least of the worries. Right? Your money is fine. Take 40%, take 50%. But then they're going to come take you and lock you up in a cage. So you'll see when you're in the cage and there's only one person in the cage with you and there's 20 of them standing out manning the jail, you'll wish you had done something when the numbers weren't so stacked against you.
Yeah, they're only stacked against us because there's not enough Americans on board with understanding their constitutional rights, their freedoms, and that's a slippery slope. I mean, obviously, I don't promote war or any type of violence whatsoever. However, it's questionable. Like, what are we supposed to do about it? What are we going to do? Because they, meaning the government now, who is completely unaccountable, and we see that in all individual events. Like, we see beatings of from a police officer to a person, suspect, quote unquote, and there'll be 15 cops standing there watching that don't do anything about it. They don't do anything about it until someone like you or me, Craig, come with our camera and ask them why they didn't do something about it while we were reporting it to the feds. And that's when they go, "Oh, well, I'll testify in court against that person." Well, why didn't you do it in the street? Why didn't you take your authority in the position that I pay you for? Why didn't you put handcuffs on the person in the uniform that was committing a battery? That's my question. Where are they at? Yeah. Where are these good cops at? Because
it's a great point, Chris, and I've always thought that as well. And it's a really unpopular topic. I don't really like to talk about it, man, because it's really just not a great thing. But that George Floyd incident was a great example. A lot of people say that the cops didn't kill him. A lot of people say the cops did kill him. I don't claim to know, but what I do claim to know is I saw like 35 people stand and watch 4 people do that to somebody, and the guy was screaming for his life. And I know that if I was screaming for my life, I would hope that somebody in that crowd would be one of those people that they call a maniac. Somebody who's so crazy that they're willing to save another human life.
No, right? Isn't it bad that that's the label that person would catch?
Yes,
You know?
that's the exact label that they would catch. And it is unfortunate, but that's really the way that they've stacked it up, man. I mean, we're all so brainwashed that we all turn to the Supreme Court to tell us what the Constitution meant. The founding fathers provided us with this document, and they said, look, the layman can read it. We made it to restrain government. So the idea was to tie the government in the chains of the Constitution. That's what they said. And so, the people are supposed to tie them, though, not the Supreme Court, right? Not themselves. To tie themselves, because they're never going to tie themselves. That's ridiculous. So we were supposed to restrain them. And that's what we did. That's what we did in the Revolutionary War, right? That was what the Declaration was. That was a notice of we are going to secede from this tyranny. Right? But ever since we won the revolution and the people that won it, now that they're in charge, now we're supposed to do exactly what we didn't like with the British. We're just supposed to do it to the people that have the same ethnicity as us, or the people that have the same country of origin as us. And it's absolutely ridiculous, man. I think it's the most dangerous brainwashing that has happened on this earth. But Chris,
yeah, we're in bad shape, Craig. I mean, over the years,
yeah, let me know what you think.
You still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Oh, by the way, we got $2 from the Smoking Otter. Here's $1 for you to help out with lawyer fees. I really appreciate that.
Oh, on that topic. So I'm excited to see, I know today won't be the day because you're just going to do your plea. This is just pre-trial, guys. Like today, what you should expect if process goes as it should would simply be, maybe a 5-minute hearing where Craig's attorney is going to put in his plea. And if they want to set anything up for future proceedings, they would submit that to the judge, and they would make the judge aware of that today. The process, like his actual hearing isn't going to be until the judge sets it in today's hearing. But I'm interested to see how Larry Foreman approaches your case. I've spoken to him as an attorney. He's a very well-known, very popular and good attorney in Kentucky. And he's also on YouTube. I think a lot of people already know that. But I have heard nothing but good things out of him, in his office. And I've considered employing him myself in a couple of cases. And I really want to see the man go to work for your case here. I want to see what happens, because most of the ones I see on his channel are like DUIs and stuff. So I'm sure that he's perfectly capable, and I can't wait to see the guy put on his superhero uniform today and go to bat.
Yeah, well, and Chris, this isn't Larry Foreman. This is going to be a gal named Elizabeth Smith. Now, I want to tell everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. We got to be very quick about this because we've got 7 minutes. I've got 7 minutes. I've got to hop off of here in the next 2. We've got 485 people. I just put out a community post on my community page, and I don't have time to get it all copy and pasted over here. The information that you need is over there. We've got the Zoom link, the meeting ID, and the password to the thing. Now, I want everybody to make sure that we put our things on mute. We stay respectful because this is a court hearing.
Yes.
So everybody go on and do that. And I'm sure that the admin can mute you anyways. But go over to the community page, get logged in, get to that link. And I'm going to do that myself. I'm going to go ahead and put my link in right now. And then I've got to stop the live stream because I cannot broadcast, record, or anything to do with any court proceedings. So I'm going to get off of here. Chris, thank you so much for coming.
Real quick, let me say this to your audience. Guys, let's show this court how professional we are in comparison to them. Let's show them what professionalism means.
That's right. That's right. Good addition, Chris. And I'm sure that we all have the intent to do that, right? So let's all do that. So thank you for being here, Chris. That's really helped me out a lot, man. And we all really appreciate your opinion and your effort over on your channel. So after this, guys, go over to For Public Safety's channel because he said he's got the video of them arresting him at his house. So we all got to go over there and watch that because that's going to be crazy in itself. So, Chris, we'll see you later, man. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'll support you always, Craig. You do good work, buddy.
Likewise, brother. Take
All
it
right.
easy.
Talk to you soon.